Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. It's great to be back with you. I hope you are doing well. I am your host. You can listen to me on X, and you can listen to and watch me on Rumble and YouTube. Please like, share, and subscribe because it does feed the AI algorithm. And lastly, please post your comments and questions below. It'd be wonderful to hear from you. And let's jump right into it. This article from Futurism. New AI enhanced sex bots are going on sale this summer. So I was going to try to, I probably wrote out all these notes maybe like 2 weeks ago. I think I wrote out all these notes for this video. And I think deep down inside, I was trying to avoid this. It's the reason why I picked it out because it's relevant. It's one of those stories that is probably not going to get a lot of attention. Well, it might get a lot of attention. I don't know. It depends on the circles you run in. But it's going to be one of those stories where we're going to use AI and robotics for our personal lives, for our fantasies, right? And in the current market, I don't know if you've been in the current dating market or not. I advise you to stay away because it's a disaster zone. This is going to be one of those alternatives. Rightfully, this is going to be mostly an alternative to relationships for men. I imagine there might be some alternatives for women as well. I didn't honestly look into that while I was preparing for this video, but there might be a percentage there. Anyway, article title: New AI enhanced talking sex bots are going on sale this summer. Again, this is from Futurism. Article begins, sexy time. Sex robot manufacturers in China are apparently getting ready to jam custom artificial intelligent models in their wares. They're going to jam it in their wares. I'm going to let that sit for a second while I drink my coffee. Yep, the writer did that. Jam custom artificial intelligence models into their wares. If you don't know what a ware is, I looked it up for you. It means products and goods. But you probably already derived that from the sentence. Article continues. As the South China Morning Post reports, a Shenzhen-based company called Starpery, which is one of the country's largest sex doll makers, is in the process of training its own large language model, or LLM, to take its fairly lifelike sex bots to the next level. So as I'm reading that, I'm thinking to myself, gee, AI is going to take over the world. AI is going to take all of our jobs from us. And oh, by the way, it's going to give us sex bots. Yes, it's going to give us sex bots too. So yeah, they're developing their own language models for their sex bots. So instead of getting something like Copilot, you're going to get Sexbotress. I'm going to just let that one sit there. Probably should have wrote down more of my jokes for this article. Article continues here. Though it won't be the first so-called AI sex robot to come out of China. As we'll see, there are going to be more. They're going to be competing companies. Starpery CEO Evan Lee suggested that the new models slated to hit shelves this August are going to be a game changer. Quote here, the new generation of sex dolls powered by AI models and equipped with sensors. That's an interesting way, a new way to use sensors. Can react with both movements and speech, boastfully, significantly enhancing user experience by focusing on emotional connection, rather than just basic conversational abilities. Right. So that gets into my initial questions regarding this technology. If you haven't been living under a rock lately, uh, besides some good insurance for you that I can recommend to you, uh, there is probably some uh, uh, battling going on right now between the sexes. At least I know in the United States. In China, I'm not very familiar with China's cultural dynamics as far as their relationships between men and women are concerned. I know China is pushing family values, so to speak, and I use that word loosely because it's based off of Chinese culture, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. But here in the United States, yeah, some questions we probably should ask about sex bots. Um, and by the way, this isn't the new. This isn't new, right? They used to have back in the '90s 1-800 and 1-900 sex lines, or lines where you could call up somebody and talk to a woman, right? You don't know who the woman is on the other side, but she has a really nice voice, and the process goes from there. And of course, porn, right? Porn is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And so men are, I would say mostly men, are gravitating, are using that. I'm not saying most men in society. I'm saying the people who are using it are mostly men, although there are a lot of women. Right? And then the question is, well, why were men calling 1-800 and 1-900 lines instead of going out on dates? Why were why are men using porn instead of going on dates? Like those are all alternatives, right? Let's see if I jump ahead in my notes here to steal my own thunder. We call that a substitute in economics. It's a suitable substitute is refers to a product or service that consumers see as the same or similar product or service. So it's a substitute. Men are looking at these alternatives. And so then I came up with some questions, which I think are good questions to ask, right? Because obviously they're filling a need. So the business model is they provide these dolls or robotics with AI to men. Men are willing to pay for it, right? So instead of going out on dates or meeting women, they're paying for these pieces of technology. They're willing to do it. There is a market for it. It's not just magic, there's a market for it. So here are the questions. Is it cheaper than dating? Right? If this is, if let's just say it's a $5,000 piece of equipment. A guy paid $5,000 for a piece of equipment. This is just for classroom purposes, right? This is a, this is a what if. What if a guy pays 5,000 for his piece of technology, which he might? Then what does that say? What does that say about his not his, well, it could say something about his moral and ethical values if you want to take that approach. What does it say about the value of the product itself versus the value of asking women out and going on a date? Right? Is it cheaper than dating? Right? Does he think he would spend less on a $5,000 piece of equipment than he would on going on a date with a woman? Here's a second question. Is it faster than dating? Is it faster than dating? All right. So what's the purpose of a man going on a date? Well, in modern terms, it's hooking up. If you're a little bit more traditional, you're looking for a mate, looking for a wife, you want to start a family. Right. So going on a date or two, maybe three, and then after that, you're pretty much thinking about, okay, yeah, we like each other. This is cool. Let's connect and let's get married and let's go. Especially if you're probably a little bit more on the religious side of things, which by the way, I have no issues. I have no quarrel with. I have no issues with that whatsoever. Actually, I think in a lot of instances that's probably a good idea. But we're dealing with a diversified market with different beliefs, and people have different views on life. So we have the typical guy goes to work. Uh, he's sick of online dating. He's not getting a lot of, uh, uh, a lot of women are not reaching out to him. They don't seem to be interested in him. So instead, and let's say he tries everything and says, "Well, none of that's working, so I'm going to go get a sex doll." Right. So getting a sex doll, right? The function of the sex doll is to take care of the urge, so to speak, to take care of the thing, right? So in his mind, it would be faster than dating. Yeah. Here's another question: is it more efficient? Right? Does a guy, yeah? Well, Let's talk about the sexual dynamics between men and women. What do women want? What do men want? I know. What is a woman? Guess you kind of have to know the answer to that question before you can get into sexual dynamics. I'm gonna grab some coffee. Anyways, what does a man want? What does a woman want? They're different things. Guy wants to get to the point. The woman, she wants, excuse me, she wants a man to go through the reps, so to speak. Do this for me, do that for me, do this for me, do that for me. And the guy's thinking to himself, I just want to jump into bed with you. Right? Sexual dynamics. I know that's a very simplistic way of looking at it, but that's basically it. Come on. That's basically it. Um, Here's another question: is it more reliable? A follow up question: will the date happen? Yeah, is the dude just sick and tired of getting stood up? Right. And that's another part of it too. So he has to go through the process of meeting women online or meeting a woman in a bar or, well, I don't know. For you listeners out there, does a man have these issues in a church or in a synagogue or in a mosque or a masjid, as the term is in Arabic? Would a man have these issues if they go on a date? Right? Because I imagine in religious institutions or religious centers, religious facilities, a church, synagogue, there's a natural filtering system going on, right? There's the filtering system of the people already coming into, we'll use the church as the example. They're already coming into the church, right? So people already filtering themselves out, right? So these are the people who want to be there, have the same set of values, and you kind of know that as a man, and you know that as a man, and you know that as a woman, right? They have these same values or similar values, right? So it's not like you go on a date and you find out the chick that you're dating is a highly trained CIA operative. Well, I guess maybe you could have that in a church, but pick something. You pick something really ridiculous, right? You when you go to a bar, you go out to eat, or you have to do something like that, you don't know who that person is. Here's my point: you don't know who the person is sitting across from you, other than what they said online. Right? Let's say you met the person online. Now you have to go through the process of asking them questions. You have to really dive in. But at a church, you have a pretty good idea of the value system of that person because they're going to the same church as you. So, in that sense, yeah, it going through a church is more reliable. Plus, you because of the value system, you have a pretty good idea about how this person is going to act. Not completely, not completely, but for the most part, a pretty good idea. High likelihood. You don't get that from online dating. You don't get that from going out to a bar. You might get that from going to a gym, although I would say less so because you do have gym. You have the gym interests that are the same. But beyond that, it's it's a crapshoot, right? You're just throwing dice at that point. But I would say if you're in a church or a synagogue or a masjid, a mosque, uh, you probably have the likelihood, the probability of success is much much higher. So you meet at a church. Back to my point, will the date happen? So you're at church. You kind of like you're talking, get to know each other, and you say, "Hey, let's go on a date. Do you like coffee?" Sure. So go on a date. Is that person going to stand you up, no matter if it's a man or a woman? No. The answer is no. If they do, they're going to suffer consequences because they're at church. They're going to suffer consequences. Reputational consequences, which are partially so, I mean, those are social consequences. Everyone's going to talk to them. Your pastor or your bishop or whoever's leading the congregation, that person's going to have a talk with that person who stood you up. People in the congregation are going to have a talk with the person who stood you up, because a part of this is the people in the church are also supportive of you asking this person out. So that's a part of the natural filtering system. And by the way, I had no idea the video was going to go in this direction. It just did. But contrast that to getting to a man purchasing a sex doll for $5,000. He doesn't have to deal with any of that, right? Doesn't have to worry about the woman telling him no, doesn't have to take time and the work and the effort to go through all of the filtering systems. He can just say, you know what? Screw everything else. Here's 5 G's. Give me the doll. And then that doll will pay for itself. It will be cheaper over time. It'll be faster than dating. It'll be more efficient to get him to where he needs to go. That's that ultimate climax. It'll be more reliable. And he knows for damn sure the date will happen. I'm going to grab some coffee. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know your thoughts below. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. I did a lot of dating in Southern California. I don't think I'm wrong at all. I think I'm exactly right about this. But I don't know. You let me know if I missed something. You let me know if I'm wrong down in the comment section before. And before I continue, please like, share, and subscribe. Please follow me here on X. Please like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube. Please smash that like button and the alarm. And please like, share, and subscribe on Rumble. Please smash that like button and watch my videos. I appreciate it. And yeah, please provide me with some feedback. Be great. Let's continue here. Real talk. Yeah, let's get into some real talk. We weren't doing that at all. As with all other training endeavors, Lee suggested in his comments to the SCMP, which means South China Morning Post. I had to write that down myself. That the biggest hurdle in making talking AI sex robots is related to how robotic they currently sound. Right. Excuse me. So there's some pain points and some tech challenges we will get into here later in the video, which I have some notes here. The notes here that I have written down for, let me look here, human user pain points, technology challenges, and some additional notes along with my final 3 questions. So we will get into that. And by the way, it has to be, the robot has to be as good or better at sounding than the human. Like I said in other previous videos, McDonald's videos, whether I have McDonald's video, I've said in previous restaurant videos, other technology videos, or dealing with AI, the AI has to be as good, if not better, in order for it to be worth its value. It has to be. Can't be worse. In the McDonald's video, you'll see that it was actually worse for IBM's AI, which is why McDonald's jumped ship and went to Google. So let's continue here. Quote, technological challenges remain, particularly in achieving realistic human interaction. The CEO said, while simple dialogue is easy, right? I am a robot. I am attracted to you. Let's get it on, sweetie. Probably said it's probably better than that. It doesn't sound like a dude either. All right. So while simple dialogue is easy, creating interactive responses involves complex model development by specialized software companies, right? And that's the end of the article, at least here on my X page, but not obviously not for me because I wrote down the rest of the article to read to you. So let's begin here. Article continues. Though Starpery has traditionally focused on selling dolls outside of China, the company is reportedly looking to expand in the domestic market. Right. So they're gonna take away resources from the international side and focus and reallocate those resources to the domestic side and increase their market share there, which I think is a good idea. Especially if a doll like that, dolls are probably going to be cultural for most people. So I imagine if you purchase a sex doll, well, here in the United States, it's going to be different because we have ice cream shops. And a lot of Americans, they date like they're in an ice cream shop, pretty much. I don't think that's unreasonable to say that. But in China, where you have a homogenous culture, right? Japan, you have mostly homogenous culture. African countries, you have a homogenous culture. Most people there are going to be attracted to their own group. It's only us weirdos here in the United States are attracted to people from other groups. So let's see here. Where did I leave off? All right. So so they're going to be looking to expand in the domestic market. The article continues here. There has also been ample competition in the AI powered Sexbots field this year, and there's little doubt that as one of the biggest players in the industry, Starpery is looking to capitalize on that trend. Right. Exactly. So they're not going to be the only ones, as we'll see here in a couple minutes, that there's other companies as well. Getting back to the article here, notably, the article says here, notably, the firm has not elaborated on what exactly it's training the Sexbot LLM on. Though given the naughty usages of other chatbots we've seen thus far, right? I haven't actually talked about the chatbots or AI agents. You could have Sexbots, which are chatbots. You have Sexbots, which is this AI robotics piece of technology. And you could have AI agents. I've seen a lot of people on X talking about AI agents. You could have AI agents who are actually AI sex agents, like Agent 99. Well, if you understand that reference. Let's see here. So thus far, article finishes here. We have an idea of the kinds of things these dolls might say once that training is complete. Right. So, and that is, ladies and gentlemen, the end of the article for that one. All right. So let's continue here. So some highlights. I promised you some highlights and then give you some highlights from the article. All right. So highlight one. Besides Starpery, other Chinese manufacturers are also integrating AI into physical dolls. A couple of those competitors in China, because this is a Chinese focused article, and we're just focused on China here. We're going to just focus on the competitors in China. First one is WM Doll, and the other one is X Doll, EX Doll. Those are Starpery's two competitors. And by the way, those are, if you're going to do sex dolls, those are better names than Starpery. I don't know where they got Starpery from. Maybe it's a translation from Chinese. One that I don't understand because I don't speak Mandarin or Cantonese. Cantonese. Highlight number 2, Starpery is integrating large language models, LLMs, into their Sexbots, right? Right. So LLMs are being used for a lot of different things, and they're going to be used probably pretty successfully in Sexbots, I might say. If they can solve all those, if they can answer all those questions, is it cheaper than dating? Is it faster than dating? Is it more efficient? Is it reliable? Will the date happen? Then yes, they're going to sell a lot of those dolls. Highlight number 3, Starpery wants to focus on the domestic market, which means the company wants to fortify and increase its domestic share. Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. Of course, I view that as one of the highlights. So that's the company there doing some maneuvering to protect what they have domestically. I suspect after they take more market share domestically, they'll move back out internationally and start competing on the international stage. Human user pain points. Right. So what does human want? Human wants to connect emotionally. Human wants to sound human, right? Human wants the sex bot, in this case, to connect emotionally with them. Right? The same as it's probably mostly men are going to be doing this. So as a woman would connect with them, that human wants that sex bot to sound like a human woman. Right? They want a genuine voice of what a woman would sound like. They want that sex bot to look human as possible, right? Paying a lot of money for this. You want it to be a viable substitute, and so you want to look as human as possible and real, because people are going to have relationships with these robots. So human relationships are coming. They want the responses to be optimized, right? So they want the responses to be human. They don't want it to they don't want the AI to wait and give you an answer because it's AI. They want it to do it because it's a woman. So women will do the same thing, but so they want it to be done in a womanly way. And they want the robot to be able to talk dirty to them as they would like. And as you know, most women don't do that. So women are probably going to get out competed there. Anyway, let's move on to technology challenges. Implement emotion, right? So that's going to be a hard part, making it emotional like a woman. I'll let that one sit there. I should have wrote down more of my jokes. They wanted to address the uncanny valley. Sometimes women have an uncanny valley. Anyway, let's move on here. So, other technology challenges, you're integrating the AI into the physical dolls. So now you're integrating software into hardware. And I will tell you from experience, that's not an easy feat. That is difficult. And I would actually be curious as to how they do that, because that's kind of my thing. I would be really curious as to see how they would do that. That'd be really interesting. Would they use some sort of CAN system or interesting. Let's see. They optimize. So another technology challenge here is optimize sensors for sexual interactions, right? That's a new way to use sensors. That puts Star Trek Enterprise sensors into a new light. And by the way, and I'll kind of stealing my own thunder here. Not all these sensors are going to work the way they want them to work. They're going to have to unless they build their own sensors, which they're probably not going to, because it's probably not in-house. They are going to have to find sensors that are close enough that will actually fulfill the requirement, will fulfill the ability to be, or will be able to do what they want it to do when they put software on it. And that's going to be a challenge. And I don't think people understand how difficult of a challenge that is. That's a difficult challenge. Just because a group of engineers made it work doesn't mean it's not a challenge. So yeah, optimize sensors for sexual interactions. Let's see. Replicate talking dirty, right? I said that. Yeah. So that pinpoint. Yeah, a lot of these pain points overlap, right? Or they intersect, or they're the same pain points between the human who's using the piece of technology and the company who's developing the technology, right? A lot of these pain points overlap, or they're the same pain points. Let's see some additional notes here I wrote down. Um, so their business model is going to be changing. Their technology stack is changing. Yeah, they probably developed. So what do I mean by business models changing? Before they developed sex bots, but they didn't. But the sex bots didn't have LLMs or AI models in them. Now they do. That's a changing business model, and that's well, it's a different business model, but it's also they're going to be making money in a different way. Right? So that's probably going to change their market a little bit. Well, maybe not, but let's see here. Yeah, it's probably going to change it a little bit. It's probably going to change it a little bit. Anyway, their structure is changing. Technology stack is changing as well. Again, I just said that they had sex bots. Now they had software on them before, but now they're putting on they're putting AI into the sex bots. And by the way, there's a whole underlying interesting thing getting into embedded systems. Embedded systems is a field where software meets hardware, and that is a different animal for machine learning and artificial intelligence than most of the stuff you hear in the news. You rarely ever hear about embedded environments. It's a different animal. Engineers are also built differently too. Let's see here. So more additional notes. Not all sensors are created equal. That's true. A sensor is designed for a particular environment, but they aren't always reliable. Yeah. So even if the group of engineers got the sensor to do what it wanted to, uh, it doesn't mean that that sensor is going to be reliable. And how long is that sensor going to last until they have to replace the sensor? Because that sensor, like all technology and everything in the universe, will decay over time. It just depends on how long. Not and here's some more notes. Not all AIs are equal, and they don't work in every single environment, as observed with McDonald's IBM AI. Remember, we talked about that in the McDonald's episode. The IBM AI did not solve McDonald's pain point or pain points. So McDonald's said, "Thank you very much for the relationship. We're going to go use Google now." Just because Starbury puts AI into their sex bots doesn't mean it's going to work at scale. Doesn't mean that. It's going to cost a lot of money to do it. Now, if obviously it'll work if a lot of people are buying, a lot of men are buying their robots, then that's probably a good indication that it works. There's also the uncanny valley problem, that black empty look or blank empty look. Right? How do engineers get through that? How can you mimic human nature? Nobody's done that yet. Everyone just kind of knows about the problem. And excuse me, creating interactive responses involves good design. Yes, it does. So the sexbot also has to be able to interact with you. If it doesn't, if it's not doing that, then it's probably not going to be able to satisfy the questions that we went over earlier. That is it cheaper than dating? Is it faster than dating? Is it more efficient? Is it more reliable? Will the date happen? Is it efficient to build? The company has to be able to scale these products. Can they do that? And can they test and validate with financial constraints? So, in other words, they're given their engineers are given a specific pot of money and time, and it's not going to go higher. Great, it's not going to be greater than that. So they have to be able to build this product within that time frame and with that amount of money. And as I said before, Stappery will focus on the domestic market, which means increasing the share of the domestic market. Well, it doesn't mean that. It means that's what they're going to try to do. So, anyway, jump into my final three questions here. You let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. I'd like to hear your feedback on my highlights and pain points and technology challenges. Let me know if you've seen some of those things in your own industry. So question number one, how is this going to affect the Chinese dating market? Will AI sex bots be viewed as substitutes for women? And like I said before, a substitute refers to a product or service that consumers see as the same or similar product or service. It depends. It always depends. Will that sex bot satisfy the questions we previously asked? Right? Is it cheaper? Is it faster? Is it more efficient? Is it more reliable? It has to be able to answer all those questions. If it does, then yeah. Yeah, it's going to affect the Chinese dating market. It'll affect every single dating market across the planet. Yeah, and then men will view AI sex bots equal to women. That's what'll happen. It'll become a direct substitute. And as a consequence, this could decrease the interactions between Chinese men and women, and thus could decrease relationships, marriage, and child rearing. Decrease the number of children, in other words. So that's certainly a possibility. Question two, if companies like Stappery are successful domestically, will the Chinese Communist Party allow these companies to be successful past a certain point? So it might be fine now at the moment that they're successful. But if it impedes too much into the agenda of the Chinese government, then it's probably going to become an issue where the government's going to do something about it. Because not only is China a socialist country, but it also has an ethnocentric country, which has been focused on nationalistic pride over the past few decades. Right. So if you've watched Donnie Yen movies, there's a lot. I like Donnie Yen movies, but there's some movies. What's the kung fu movie? Master, not Master P. What's a master? Is a kung fu master. Probably remember after this video is over. Anyway, in those movies, you can see the emphasis on Chinese culture and Chinese family embedded into the movie, which I don't have a problem with that. But that's going to conflict at some point with sex bots. That those two are going to come into conflict. Back to the example earlier of the church, sex bots might come into conflict with churches. And what are churches going to do about that? Are they going to sit idly by? Or are they going to try to get involved in politics and try to pass policy? Or are they going to try to, pass some sort of social constraint within the church itself? How are they going to deal with that? Probably something similar to how do churches deal with pornography right now, I would imagine. And so then the question is, how do the churches balance those trade-offs, those systems? Is it tolerable to balance those systems? Excuse me for a second. Grab some water. By the way, I don't know the answer to that question. I imagine with the Chinese government, there's probably going to be tolerance of some balance. With churches, I just don't see that. I don't see a tolerance of balance. How could you balance that? Because not only is it physically coming into conflict there's also philosophical conflict between the church and sex dolls as well. It's antithetical to churches. I don't care what kind of Christian you are. As far as my understanding of Christianity, it comes into conflict. Final question, question 3. How is this business model going to affect the gross domestic product of China over the short term and the long term? Is it going to increase it in the short term and continue to increase it in the long term? Or is some other short term and long term combo going to happen? Sometimes I lie with the questions when I say just last question, and the last question end up being 10 questions. But, in the short term, if it's successful, that's probably fine. Back, associated with the first 2 questions, it's probably okay for in the case of the Chinese government. But if it continues to be successful in the long term, well, then that comes into conflict with what the Chinese government's trying to push forward. And I suspect, as I've said earlier, I don't suspect, we'll just say I know, it's already in conflict with churches and synagogues and masjids, and it's going to continue to be in conflict with them. Because, by the way, you have a guy at church gets a sex doll, and his sex doll is going to take over his life, and he's going to stop going to church, and the church doesn't want that. Right? That's bad. Bad for everyone in that case. So were there any questions I missed? Were there any questions you wish I would have asked? Thanks again for being with me today. I appreciate all of you. Thank you again for all of my followers on X. I have 130 plus followers. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video.